Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and this is the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast, the music podcast on where I interview singers and musicians from genres of black music: gospel, jazz, blues, old school classic soul, old school hip hop, today's hip hop and R&B, Caribbean, Latin, Afrobeat, Afro-Latina, blue-eyed soul, disco, go-go, line dances, and the Lost 45s. So come with me as I take you on to a trip to the destination genre of black music right now on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Legal Shield is a proud sponsor of the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Have you been involved in any types of accidents? Have you been a victim of identity theft? Have you been a victim of a computer fraud scam? Have you been in disputes with your tenants or landlords? If your loved one dies and they didn't write up a will for you or for your family, or you and your spouse are filing for divorce, or if you need help by opening up your small business, give Legal Shield a try. Visit their website at LegalShield.com and tell them you heard it here on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Do it today. You'll be glad you did. Welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience. I'm Sam Wilson Jr. Did you know that music play a part in fashion and the arts? The answer is yes. And I'm very delighted to have my guest on my show. This lady that I'm about to introduce represents the Boogie Down, Bronx, New York, and she has worked in the fashion industry for over 25 years. Today, she is the founder of Meli-Micah Design LLC, a school from ages 12 to 18 and from grades 7 to 12. It's minority-owned, women-owned, and Christian-owned. And on this episode of the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast, we're going to be talking about how does music play a part in fashion and the arts world. So please help me welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast, ladies and gentlemen, the founder of Meli-Micah Design LLC, Miss Nina Echevarria. Hi Nina, how are you?
Hi everyone, I'm Nina Echevarria and I'm the founder and CEO of Meli-Micah Design LLC, located in the Bronx, New York.
Okay, thank you so much for that intro. And before we do that, we have to give a shout out to Mr. Andy Bankhauser, representing Rancho Santa Margarita, California. I think I was on the chat room with him on a line boat this past summer, and then after the meeting he reached out to me and said, "Hey Sam, I have a person you can hook up with, and she's in the fashion industry." So I said, "Fashion?" And then I said, "Wait a minute, music play a art in fashion?" Because when we were all watching the American Music Awards and the Grammys and the Kennedy Center Honors and the BET Awards and the Soul Train Awards, and yes, the Latin Grammys and the MTV VMAs. So every award show that I be watching, you never know when our favorite singers and musicians will be wearing on the red carpet, sometimes unexpectedly. Mm-hmm. So yes, fashion and arts play a part in the music industry. And I did an interview on this lady that I knew, and this was in season 3, but it was on audio. And she is a friend of some of my former CBS co-workers. She is the founder of Jazz and the Arts Festival, where every summer you will see artists and we see music. And I was supposed to do a DJ gig back in June of 2023, but then unfortunately it rained. So I was looking for that opportunity. So I said to my friend Gwen, if you're out there, please check out this episode. And yes, We need to turn that favor.
Hmm.
But anyway, I'm very delighted to have you here on my Black Soul Music Experience podcast. We just want to give a shout out to Andy. So thank you, Andy, for that opportunity for hooking me up to my guest. So, as always, America doesn't know who you are, the world doesn't know who you are, so I'm very delighted to interview you on my show. So, let us begin, shall we? Now, as I said in the intro, you're from the boogie down Bronx, New York. What section were you were born in the Bronx, New York?
So I was raised in on Townsend on 170th Street in the Bronx. So that's pretty much like the South Bronx, and that was the neighborhood where I grew up in.
Okay, because I'm no stranger to the area. I can tell you that I have been living in the Bronx for 55 years, but I wasn't born in the Bronx. I'm originally from the village of Harlem, so I know the whole borough of the Bronx. You know why? Because my late mother got connections. She knows people. So she does by taking her car and take shortcuts. We would be on the concourse. We would go take a shortcut to avoid the traffic lights and everything. So I've been moved around the Bronx lots of times. I was moved to the Bronx after my parents were divorced in the summer of 1969. So it was me and my late mother and my late oldest sister and her boyfriend that she had, but didn't tell me that he was from the South Side of Chicago in 2009. So as I said, I lived in the Bronx on Harrison Avenue between West Tremont and West Burnside Avenue. Then moved to the east side of the Bronx in Parkchester. I lived on Metropolitan Avenue between Metropolitan Oval and Castle Hill Avenue. And then after that was just me and mom moved back to Harlem. We lived in the projects for a while, living with her friends who worked at Jacoby Hospital. And then by the end of 1972, going into the new year of 1973, we was moved back to the Bronx. We live in a Wakefield section, two-family house on East 226th Street between Bronxwood and Barnes Avenue, right before you hit Westchester County, near the Bronx River Parkway. And then later moved to Rylander Avenue near Jacoby Hospital, and then moved around. So like I
Hmm.
said, I've been moved around the Bronx lots of times. I know the area. I've been riding my bike all my life to these areas, so I'm no stranger to that. Now, were your parents or any of your family relatives in the music and arts or fashion industry, or did they have regular 9 to 5 day jobs?
No, none of my relatives were in the fashion industry or music industry. They all had 9 to 5 day jobs. I was the first person in my family to enter into the fashion industry.
Now, which high school did you go to?
I went to the High School of Art and Design.
Oh, okay, in the village of Harlem, correct?
No, it was actually on in the 50s in Manhattan.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
on the
So,
east side. Hmm.
oh, okay. Because there's another high school of arts and design, but it was near City College. It was called the Fiorello LaGuardia School of Music and the Arts and then Design. So
Yes.
I was applying for that, but I didn't get in. So I was ending up in Truman High School, where, yes, I had to take up music and art education. So I missed the opportunity, but I stayed in school and had my opportunity. So anyway,
No, I know. I'm familiar with LaGuardia because that was like our rival high school when I was in high school because we were competing with the arts. But LaGuardia had different forms of art besides like, drawing and stuff like that. They had music and all different types of art forms for students where art and design was predominantly art derived, art driven. They had architecture, graphic design, sketching, drawing, all different types of art mediums. So that was the difference between the two schools.
okay. And which college did you go to?
I went to Wood Toby Colburn College for Fashion and Design. That also was in the city.
And what was your major in college?
I studied graphic design and fashion design.
Now, who did you want to be when you grow up?
I always wanted to be an artist when I grew up because from the age of 5, I loved drawing. And I remember, like, my parents gave me sketchbooks to draw. I had drew a lot of characters that, really inspired me throughout my childhood and elevated my skills as I got older, which led me to go into an art high school. And, I also went to like SVA on the weekends to, study different forms of art. I was a part of Teachers and Writers Collaborative, which was a different form of art, which was writing and journaling and reciting poetry and creating plays and things like that. So I love drawing as well as writing, like creative writing, and I still do to this day.
You
Hmm.
know, me growing up when I was doing drawing, we didn't have no tracing paper back then when I was little. All
Hmm.
we had was just a sheet of paper and just draw something. And my late paternal grandmother that I was staying with in Harlem, she used to give me some paper that I can draw because I'd be drawing like billboards, like I see growing up back in the 70s on I-87 Deegan Expressway. There used to be a big billboard with a clock in the middle. So I would imagine myself and I would draw that and have a little clock in the middle. And I would draw some cars and everything. But there was something that was in the family that my late paternal grandmother didn't share with me, and that was my late paternal uncle Walter Wilson. And he was an outstanding drawer. He was best remembered for doing that Muriel cigar commercial back in 1950. And he once worked at an advertising studio which was founded by the daughter of the late Chico Marx, the Marx brothers, Groucho, Chico, and Harpo, those Marx brothers. And all of that time that my late grandmother didn't share that with me, but my late grandfather did, and some of my cousins from the Wilson Dix family did. And Disney was just getting ready to sign him. But unfortunately, my late Uncle Walter and my late father and my late Uncle Joe and their brother-in-law, my late Uncle Carl, was shipped off to the Korean War. So after coming home from the Korean War, my late Uncle Walter was doing his arts again. While at the same time, my late father had gotten for Christmas a set of drums. And my late paternal aunt Catherine and her brother, my late Uncle Joe, were piano players. So we had all that time and talent on my late father's side of the family. Now, even though I was just playing it for fun, but you have to be really serious about it. As my late mother will always say, if you're serious about something, whether it's playing music or everything, you have to have practice. Because sometimes you can't be outside with your friends playing, that is, and you being committed to something. And when I told her that I was going to do radio in the media, she thought I was nuts. And the only thing she was concerned about was, does it pay you? Does it pay for Social Security taxes and FICA and everything? So it was my calling. And I went to trade school, Center for the Media Arts. So after I graduated from Truman High School, I went to Center for the Media Arts in the Chelsea section of Manhattan on West 26th Street. And it was right across the street from where our CBS studios used to be. Unfortunately, the trade school is no longer there because there was a lack of funding.
Hmm.
But radio was my calling, but then I got turned down by that. So my second one was graphic art and design, and then in the second year I took up TV art and computer graphics. So
Hmm.
I'm good at computers, but I don't know everything. So
Hmm.
it was just there to work behind the scenes. So that was my calling, but radio kept calling me, and that was my calling. Now, how old were you when you took up arts and fashion?
I was right after I graduated from high school, so I was about like 17, turning 18. Yeah, that's when I entered college.
Okay.
Mhm.
Was being a fashion and arts designer your calling?
Yes, I believe it was so. Like I said, from a young age, I love drawing. I love drawing characters. I love, putting outfits on them and dressing them and, creating storylines and, just basically settings and moods and trends, So that was something I really enjoyed as a young child. And, as I evolved and became older, still enjoyed it.
Now, growing up, what was some of your favorite radio stations from back in the day?
Oh, definitely Hot 97 was my go-to radio station because I grew up in the like 90s. That's when I was in high school. And that was just the station that everybody listened to. So, obviously during that time was a lot of hip hop and R&B.
Now, growing up, what was some of your favorite artists with dealing with fashion? Singers. Who were some of your favorite singers that had the most style in fashion?
Oh, so my favorite, like if I was following trends, like I said, I grew up in the 90s. So like looking at a lot of different like hip hop and R&B artists, I love like the way Little Kim used to dress, like Foxy Brown, like I love the way she dressed. Like I even love Queen Latifah's style, Wu-Tang Clan was had great style as well. They had Wu Wear and all these other brands, so like there's a lot of fashion out there, and they were following a lot of designers like Versace and stuff like that. So, obviously, whenever they would sing or rap about a label, or a designer brand, obviously the people would go out and buy those type of, clothing, because they wanted to be a part of the trends.
And who were your influences?
My influences growing up was, I would say, would be family members. My grandma was a great influence in my life. She actually is a pattern maker and a seamstress, and I think that's probably where a little bit of my art creativity came from. And to this day, even though she's now 90, in her mind, she still could remember how to like cut and sew and knit. She did a lot of that for her children growing up. Like all their clothes were like handmade and stuff like that. But she was a great influence in my life, and she still is to this day.
Okay, well, same thing for my late mother, and she knit and sewed, and then back then she had that singer um, fashion
The sewing
machine.
machine, yeah.
Yes, the
Yeah.
sewing machine. She knows how to, you know, put things together, make it everything for herself, and she usually go to this fashion designing store. We have one here on Boston Road in the Bronx back in the 70s, and then later we would go down to the Lancey Street and
Mhm.
Orchard Street back then. She would look for some fashion, anything design, and she would take it home and just pattern it out and sew it up and everything. So I remember that singer sewing machine from back in the day. Now, what company had you worked for in the last 25 years, and what department have you worked at that company?
I worked for a lot of different companies that, had private label brands and licensed products. I will not mention the company's names, but I designed for a lot of different labels and brands throughout my career, designing everything from room decor, home decor to accessories, apparel, men's, ladies, kids, infant layettes, handbags, backpacks, footwear, jewelry. I designed everything under the sun, but it was a great run, and I really enjoyed my career.
Now, did the company that you worked for has received any clients from the music industry?
I am not 100% sure about that, so I cannot confirm or deny.
Now, let's talk about the school that you founded, Meli-Micah Design Studio LLC in the
Mhm.
Bronx, New York. Please share with our audience on what that school is about and how many years was it in existence.
So I want to clarify, it's not a school, it's a studio. It's a design studio. And this studio just evolved last year in 2024. It's a new company that I started and founded. And it's actively growing and excelling in the community. So, I ask the audience, come try out our services. Go on our website at www.meli-micah.com and look at our courses that we offer.
Okay.
Mhm.
And one of your, I got a chance to check out your website, and I was looking at the information of just like you said a few minutes ago. And here's a motto that I was reading, and I quote: "It's to empower middle and high school students by an example and transformation, fashion and purpose, possibility, and the real world." What does it mean by that in your own words?
Yes. So, what I teach my students is real world life skills in the industry, things that you generally are not taught in schools, right? Because when you go to school, you learn the tricks of the trade, right? You learn the basics of, whatever industry you're going in, but they don't give you the full like business acumen. Like they don't teach you about like working with different teams, working with overseas factories, how product is produced, how there's different stages in production, from a proto to a pre-production to a top of product and bulk, like these are all the things that, school is not actually teaching you. So when you go into these industries, you're kind of blinded and jaded. But, as you evolve and grow in an industry, you start to learn the tricks of the trade and you learn from other individuals who have been in the industry for some time, who are like veterans and seniors in the industry. So, for me, when I first started out, I didn't have much knowledge in the industry as far as like how things flow, like the ebbs and flows of things. Like I just knew the basic, like, okay, I have a computer. I have to learn how to draw patterns and repeats. I have to learn how to sketch. I have to learn how to use colors and things like that. But I didn't know that there was so many different moving parts. So, that's what I'm teaching my students, all the moving parts in the industry, as well as how to design all different types of products.
Wow.
Hmm.
Now, what advice would you give to a Gen Z or any youngster who wants to get into the arts and fashion industry?
Well, they are the trendsetters. So the advice that I would give them is just to always be your authentic self, and work really hard to achieve whatever goal you're seeking in life. And I'm here to help you and guide you in that way if you need assistance. So come to the studio and learn.
Now, very nice. Now, here's a question that I have to ask you. And as I said in the earlier, that I had take up music, arts, and I didn't take up fashion, but I did
Mhm.
take up music and arts. Now, I went to a private school in New York's Upper West Side. It's no longer there. I was there in the third grade back in 1973 all the way up to 1976. And yes, I took up music education, and we had a teacher who looked like Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman. So we were singing her music, Carly Simon, Carole King, Three Dog Night, just to name a few. I didn't take up music education again until I got to IS 144 or junior high school or MS 144 in the Bronx, where I took up music education and arts education. In other words, I got a chance to do my ceramics, and I'm very good at ceramics because me growing up, what I had for Christmas, I had that pottery craft back in the
Mhm.
70s. So I learned how to do that and making stuff for my late mother. But also, I've taken up other parts of arts education, including metal and also drawing. And not only that, I had to take notes in arts. I'm like, I gotta take notes in arts education? Me growing up, we didn't have to take that. We just do what we have to do. Just do your clay, do your painting and everything. But when I got to the seventh grade, taking up arts education, taking notes, I said, that's very different. And
Hmm.
then by the time I got to music at IS 144, I took up music in the sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And when those violins came out, I wanted to play those violins so bad. But at the same time, it takes practice if you want to be serious about it. And the same thing when I went to Harry S. Truman High School in the Co-op City section of the Bronx, New York. Once again, I took up music education, but only in the ninth grade. In arts, I took it up in the 10th grade and then in the 12th grade. So it takes practice. And as I said earlier, that if you're serious about that, it takes a lot of commitment. And here on the Black Soul Music Experience podcast, not only going to entertain, but also educate. Because yes, fashion and arts play part in the music. So with everything I've already said, and then went to trade school after I graduated from high school. As I said earlier, radio was my calling. Radio was my first choice, and then I got turned down by it. I ended up taking graphic art and design, and then the second year I took up TV art and computer graphics.
Hmm.
And I have to ask you this question on this subject, on why is music and the arts and fashion education is so important.
Well, it's extremely important. I think it really needs to be brought back in a lot of schools because it intertwines, right? So, the fashion industries are the trendsetters for the musical artists, right? Because they're wearing the clothing, they're wearing the designer brands and the labels, right? So they're promoting the fashion industry's business, and it goes hand in hand. So basically, one hand is helping another, and that's why it intertwines and blends really well together.
Okay. Now, here's a question that I always ask my guests: living or dead, which singer or group you wish you wanted to meet?
I would love.
Fashion, that is.
Oh, in the in fashion or music. You said group. You said singer or group.
Yes, because, we're talking about fashion. When we see a lot of singers like Patti LaBelle who had her
Mhm.
hair, I was watching Motown Returns of the Apollo, and I see that, is that a hat or that's her real hair? And I looked at that, it's her hair like that. I'm like, so that's an example, like, fashion. And Prince, his favorite color is purple. So
Hmm.
when I see him perform, he'd be on that stage with wearing purple and those high boots. And the same thing with Michael Jackson. When he was in that Beat It music video, he had that red jacket with all them zippers.
Hmm.
And I was at the Michael Jackson celebration at the La Poisson Rouge in the Greenwich Village section of Manhattan. So like every first Friday of August, they would do a Michael Jackson celebration. I see everybody be wearing those Michael Jackson outfits, whether they
Hmm.
were doing the present Michael Jackson when he had the Jerry curl and the red jacket with the zippers, or they would have wearing those spark gloves and the sparkle socks and the loafers, and the hat would be just
Hmm.
tossing while he was on stage. So anything like that.
Oh yeah, no, I think Erica Badu is a great influence in fashion. Just her style. She has a great sense for color. And the way she mixes patterns and prints, and it just really works and intertwines really well. She's one of my favorite, like also musical artists as well. Michael Jackson, I agree with you. Had a great fashion sense. I feel like a lot of people have followed his trends even currently, it like I see some of his like fashion sense in like an artist like Chris Brown, right? Who they're like two different generations, apart, but like a lot of people look to him as an influencer, even his dance moves and stuff like that. Like Chris Brown like emulates that, so it like I said, everything comes back to an existence. It's repetitive. Everything repeats itself.
So I'm glad you mentioned Chris Brown because Chris Brown, Justin Timberlake, Usher, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears, they were all influenced by Michael Jackson
Hmm.
because of his dancing routines on stage. That is the same thing that Michael Jackson and Prince were influenced by the godfather of soul, the late James Brown, known for his dancing steps. It was like you got to be quick on that when you see James Brown performing on stage. And the same thing with hip hop. Hip hop were influenced by James Brown because they was like sampling all the riffs and
Hmm.
everything. When you see those kids out there, I remember back in 1982 when I had my first summer job at St. Margaret's Church Community Center in the Bronx. I would see all those kids breakdancing, all the style fashion. They would either get those press and peel floor tiles and put it on some special kind of thing. They would put it either on the floor or out in the street. I would see those kids be breakdancing and doing all those things. I said to myself, I can't do that. You got to be real professional. And all those chains and all the jewelry and all those personalized belts. I'm like saying to myself, what's this? And when I went to Truman High School on my freshman year, 1981, 1982, I've seen all of my students dressing up. I said to myself, is this fashion school or are we supposed to come to school to learn? So I would see everybody in their hip hop fashion. Everybody be wearing the sheepskin coats and boots and the rope a dope chains and the big earrings that the ladies be wearing, the leg warmers, the British walkers, and those personalized belts. And I said, how do they get that belt on? Is there a clip or a hole or something? And of course, the Kango.
Hmm.
You know, LL Cool J had his trademark. He got the Kango. Same thing with those leather bombers with the fur in the back. I was like, is this fashion school or something? And everything. And the Gazelle glasses too. That was came out 1981. So I lived through it, even though I wasn't wearing it. But the shirt that I'm wearing now, this was not, you know, anything. But the most important thing is many people or students, some people always like this fashion. Some people have bought it, and then you have some people get killed for it. But as
Hmm.
my late mother would always say, you want to get those things, then bring me home good grades. Because
Hmm.
that's how you get in real life, going out in the real world.
Hmm.
So if you're serious about that, you got to bring home something in order to be serious about that. So I had to bring that up because when we see all the singers today, we're all influenced by everyone from back in the day. You
Yeah.
see all them fashions, and when I was watching the MTV VMAs, you never know who was going to be wearing what. I'll give you an
Hmm.
example. Lady Gaga is one of them. She
Hmm.
would come on stage or like in the audience wearing something or like covering her face. I'm like, what's Lady Gaga doing?
Hmm.
And then one time she came on, I think it was Ellen talk show, wearing meat. You wearing meat? I'm like, are you serious, girl? Wearing meat
I
all
remember
over? I'm like, mm.
that. Hmm.
And if you look at those ladies' shoes, those fashionable shoes with no spike on the
Hmm.
bottom to support, I'm like, how can you wear them with that no spike support? I'm like, ugh. And you mentioned Little Kim too.
Mm-hmm.
Little Kim, part of Junior Mafia, discovered by Biggie
Yes.
Smalls, Notorious B.I.G.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw her solo LP promo poster at some of the record stores, when you see Little Kim bow down, showing her you know what, I was like, girl, what you doing? Don't I want to see your you know what in the middle? Because
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you this, Little Kim was influenced by the adult film industry.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see those music videos, I see Vanessa Del Rio.
Mm-hmm.
She was in a couple of, Junior Mafia videos. And the same thing with Tupac. He had some adult film actresses in his music video. Everybody from Heather Hunter and Nina Hartley and Janet Jackson, just to name a few. So
Mm-hmm.
you know that all play a part in the fashion industry. So they're known for their trademarks and everything. So
Yes, because like from head to toe, I always tell people fashion varies, right? You because for women, and then you have the intimate apparel, right? So for women, it's the bras and the panties, and those are different silhouettes. Like panties come in so many different silhouettes. You have a thong, a bikini, a hipster, a brief, a modern brief, a boy short. Like there's so many different silhouettes, and then you have different types of bras. You have demi bras, balconettes, all different t-shirt bras, and lingerie plays a huge part in the music industry as well, because you see a lot of female artists sometimes they'll just wear like a button down shirt that's open, but then you see like their lingerie underneath, right? Or they'll have like some see-through bottoms or a one piece and the lingerie is showing underneath. So, all of that intertwines with one another. So, it all blends and meshes well. Another person I wanted to call out who like has a great fashion sense is Tiana Taylor. She's one of my favorite musical artists, and right now she's like booming. A lot of people, she is in the industry for a long time, but I feel like this is her year to really shine and bloom, and I'm so happy for her. But she's someone that I follow as an influencer for like trends and stuff like that.
out of all the fashion trends, I think of J Lo when
Hmm.
she was wearing that see-through thing on the 2000 Grammy Awards. It's some of the things that the network censors, don't want you to see.
Right.
Almost got censored by that. So
Hmm.
that's an example right there. And still
Hmm.
up to this date, um, when they have that at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum anytime soon, you'll probably see that dress that was worn by J Lo.
Yeah, she's
Now
a
here,
trendsetter
yes,
for sure.
yes. Now, here on the Black Soul Music Experience podcast, I always ask my guests who are the top 10 R&B black artists of all time. Now, since this is a fashion art episode, we're going to be doing the Black Soul Music Experience top 10 R&B black artists of all time in fashion. So, those singers that I've just mentioned,
Hmm.
singers that has the most fashion, whether they were performing on the Grammys or the American Music Awards or the BET Awards
Right.
or the VMAs on MTV.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
so anyway,
I'll start.
this is
Yeah.
yes. Now this is how it works. We start like a top 10 countdown, like the show America's Top 10 by the late
Mhm.
Casey Kasem. We will start at the bottom five, who are the best fashionistas and everything, but didn't get that much recognition. And then we get to the top five, we find out who was the best artist that had the most numbers, the recognition. I'm talking about the most outrageous thing that people will talk about the next day, whether it's they'll talk about that on radio or they're just tweeting it on social media. But we were the best top five artists ever. Would they see them performing on the Grammys or on the American Music Awards or the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction or the Kennedy Center honors or some of those fashions that they wore on the Midnight Special or American Bandstand or Soul Train or NBC's Saturday Night Live or Solid Gold or those fashion worn that they wore in the music videos where we see it on MTV or VH1 or BET.
Mhm.
or did they had their own special, primetime special, whether it was aired on CBS or NBC or ABC, or did they perform on PBS, whether it was great performances, or they had that special during Pledge Month, or did
Mhm.
they had that live concert special on HBO or Showtime, strutting their stuff, showing off their stuff and everything. So, Nina, are you
Mhm.
ready to take that challenge?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We'll start at number 10. Who should be at number 10?
So this is the lowest. 10 is the lowest or the highest?
The lowest.
All right. So I love Kaylani. She's a new and upcoming artist. I mean, she's been around for a few years now, but I'll start at Kaylani for number 10.
Okay, Kalani. I've heard a couple
Kaylani.
of songs in a while, so looking forward to hearing to her soon and find out what she's wearing.
Yes. And then
All right.
SZA would be number 9.
Ah, yes, SZA. Yes, I've been
Hmm.
seeing her performing at the Grammys and the most, fashionable designs. But when I saw that album cover, I looked at her. I said, "What's she standing on that swimming platform thing in the river?" I was like, "Are you that weird, serious?" And I looked at the album cover. I was like, "What's she doing?" And I don't know if she was wearing sneakers or boots. But anyway, that's SZA, so we'll put her at number 9.
Yes.
We're up to number 8.
Number 8, I'll go with Alicia Keys.
Ah, yes, the one and only Alicia Keys. When
Hmm.
she came on the scene in 2001 for her cornrows at first and that stylish hat, when she performed on all the music videos, and yes, when she performed on the MTV VMAs in 2001, she does a little classical intro. And when I see her perform on the Grammy, she will go like mixing songs in between, mixing someone else's songs and mixing it into hers, and then taking a sneak peek of some of her new stuff and everything. So Alicia Keys, she done it all. I've seen her in every music video. So in the beginning, she had the cornrow, but then she would different hair design and change up everything. But her piano is her trademark, always the same. So we'll put Alicia Keys at number 8.
Yes.
Who should be at number 7?
Usher. Everybody loves Usher.
Yes, the one and only Usher made his debut in 1993, wardrobe style and everything. And then by the time he gotten old, he would do all this danceable stuff. And yes, as I said earlier, he was influenced by Michael Jackson, doing his thing, performing, everything. So we'll put Usher at number 7. Who
Yeah.
should be at number 6?
Whitney Houston.
Ah, the Princess of Pop, the late Whitney Houston. When she first came on the scene in 1985, when I saw her first music video, You Give Good Love, she was just wearing those dungarees
Hmm.
and everything. And when I saw her perform on the American Music Awards and the Grammys, beautiful dress from
Yes.
head to toe, elegance and everything. And whether she's performing on NBC Saturday Night Live, she'll be wearing that leather jacket or anything that perform on stage. And yes, with her acting in the movie The Bodyguard and Waiting to Exhale and The Preacher's Wife, everything. So everything that touches turns to gold. So rest in peace to Whitney Houston, singer, actress, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee for the class of 2020 at number 6. Who should be at number 5?
The infamous Mariah Carey. The reason why I chose Mariah Carey is because I love that she's always wearing so much bling, like whether it's in her gown or her dress or her jewelry, like she is the queen of bling, that's for sure.
Yes, Mariah Carey made her debut in 1990 when I first saw her perform on the Arsenio Hall show, her debut LP. And yes, she performed everything, fashion design, you just said it, all the bling. when I saw her perform on NBC Saturday Night Live, season premiere in 1990, and then again later on, instead of doing all those love ballads, and then earlier once married to Tommy Mottola, she went on to do her own thing, hip hop, R&B, everything. She would be in all those music videos, known for her fashionable style and everything. And I remember one time when Whitney and Mariah, I think they were on the MTV VMAs wearing the same outfit, brown. And I was like, they both wearing the same outfit.
They probably had the same stylist at that time.
Oh, yes. So we'll put Mariah Carey at number 5. Who should be at number 4?
Number 4, The Weeknd. I love The Weeknd. I love his style.
Ah, yes. Representing Canada, The Weekend. And when I first saw this guy, he had that weird hair, like
Hmm.
either dreads or something compressed or stuff like that. And when he belted out all those hits and everything, and when I saw him perform on the Super Bowl, and back in 2021, he got rid of that and had something regular style and everything. So the weekend, he's still performing, so we'll put him at number 4. Who should be at number 3?
Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson has the best style. I mean, remember when she was in Poetic Justice? They gave her like that denim, like it was like a basic outfit, it was like denim jeans with like a t-shirt, and she had like the really cool fashionable braids and stuff like that. But she's always been a trendsetter, and I think her brother Michael was a great influence as far as like how she dressed and things like that.
Yes, that's Michael's little sister, Janet Jackson. She made her debut with her brothers when they were performing at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, 1974. And then they had their own summer variety show on CBS back in 1976 for 2 seasons. And then by 1977, she joined the cast of Good Times on CBS. She played the role of Penny. And there was an episode that I was watching. You'll see Janet character, Penny, and Ralph Carter, who played the character of Michael. They were performing on stage. They were doing a talent show episode. It was like a fundraiser episode because one of the community centers were closing its doors. So I remember Janet Jackson and Ralph Carter. They were performing on stage doing their version of Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr.'s You Don't Have to Be a Star to Be on My Show. Wonderful singing sensation. And we would never knew that she would grow up and have her own music talent back in the early 80s, although a couple of her albums had fizzled. And then in the early 80s, at the same time, she was on NBC's Different Strokes. She later joined the cast of Fame and Syndication, and she played the role of, I think it was Cleo in season 3. And then went off and reinvented herself with the help of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis with her LP Control. When I saw that album cover, yep, she was all grown up. Everything. You
Mm-hmm.
would see her dress and everything. Had some of her hits, music videos too, including What Have You Done For Me Lately? And
Control,
her
all of
other
that stuff.
song, Control,
Mhm.
and Let's Wait a While, just to name a few. And her other LP, Rhythm Nation 1814. When I saw that album cover, she was wearing that baseball cap, 1814, dressed up like in a military suit. When I saw that music video, all the dance routine and everything. And then you mentioned Poetic Justice. She was in the movie back in 1993. The braids, the t-shirts, the dungarees, the dungaree cap, and everything. And yes, when she performed on NBC Saturday Night Live, and yes, she in 19, no, not 19, yeah, 1994, she was a musical guest on NBC Saturday Night Live, and the guest host was Heather Locklear. And then in 2004, right after the Super Bowl. I mean, that was the most talked about halftime show, wearing that
Mhm.
design, and then Justin Timberlake had to do the thing, and then
Yeah, the pasty was shown, right?
yeah, the pasty was shown.
Yes.
It was talked about the next day, and she was the guest host on NBC Saturday Night Live when you do the cold opening. She was playing the role of Condoleezza Rice doing that thing of the Super Bowl. And I wanted to see the whole episode because she was the musical guest host, and I wanted to see that episode. And then my mom had to change the channel, so I was hoping that NBC would do those SNL encores on that Saturday evening. So she's inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the class of 2019. She won an American Music Award and a Grammy Award, acting, you name it. So we'll put Janet Jackson at number 3. Who should be at number 2?
Miss Beyonce, as they call her, right? And all the beehives love her. Cowboy Carter, she wore the Western trends, for the Cowboy Carter album, So she had the cowboy boots, the cowboy hat, saddle straps, whip stitches, all different types of things that coincided with the Western trends.
All right, representing Houston, Texas, Beyonce. And in case you may not know, her mother, Tina knows, she
Hmm.
takes care of the house, the Le'Veon jeans and wardrobes and everything.
Hmm.
So she made her debut, Beyonce, along with Kelly and Latavia. Destiny's Child came on the scene in 1998, and then later on, 2003, went on her own superstardom with Crazy and Love, and also Deja Vu, and her other song was called Daddy's Lessons. That was a country song from her LP Lemonade, and she performed the song Lemonade at the Super Bowl halftime show. I believe
Hmm.
it was 2013 or 2014. That was the year when the lights went out, power surge went out, and you see all the Republican Party say Beyonce did that, and you have to wait till the power went back on.
Hmm.
So then you mentioned Cowboy Carter, and this was the first country album from Beyonce. It was number 1 on Billboard's top 200 albums charts, number 1 on Billboard's country albums charts. She had won a Grammy Award for the album, and she won another Grammy for the duet that had Miley Cyrus,
Hmm.
aka Hannah Montana,
Yes.
from that album. So Beyonce was doing everything, R&B, hip hop, and country. And I was watching something on YouTube. We're talking about blacks in country music when they were showing the clip from Beyonce performing with the Dixie Chicks, known as the Chicks.
Hmm.
And people are all saying, "Why is Beyonce doing country? You should be back into your hip hop and R&B world and everything." But we're giving you a history lesson that
Hmm.
country music was made by us black folks. So when you see Beyonce giving her props and everything, that's true testimony like that. So she's singing, she's acting, and when I was coming home from an after work party, they were showing that Levi's commercial. I said, Beyonce wearing those jeans. So we see an example like that. So we'll put Beyonce at number 2. All right, who should be at number 1?
Drum roll. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson,
Ah,
for sure. As we discussed
yes.
earlier, he was the number one trendsetter in the music industry, for a lot of R&B artists who follow, he's paved the way for a lot of artists, and they follow his fashion sense. And he had great fashion sense, from the way his hair was styled to the apparel, the clothing that he wore, even his socks, his signature white socks, right? Like the crew socks that he wore, So like a lot of people emulate that now. You see the youth now, the teens, they wear their white crew socks with their slides, when they're walking outside in the streets. So, his fashion sense still is ongoing and trending to this day. It just proves that he is the king of pop and R&B and everything like that. And he's a living legend. And he deserves his flowers.
Yes, the king of pop, Michael Jackson, made his debut back in 1969 with his brothers. They performed on stage, all the fashion, clothing, and everything. When they performed on the Ed Sullivan Show with their debut song, I Want You Back, and had other hits including ABC, The Love You Saved, just to name a few. When they have performed on the Flip Wilson Show, aired on NBC, you see all their wardrobe designs. And when you saw them perform on Soul Train, same thing. And when you saw Michael Jackson performing on stage, he was wearing like a pink outfit and everything. And when they performed on The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson on NBC back in 1974, they had all those fashionable clothing and everything. And when they left Motown for CBS Records, they had their own summer show, The Jacksons. Same thing. Same design, same clothing. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, Michael Jackson was influenced by James Brown with all the spinning and the dancing and the rips and everything. And yes, with his own solo hits and albums, Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad and Dangerous. And I've seen all those music videos, whether it's on MTV, although we didn't have cable back then, but we had some of those shows that were airing on NBC, Friday night videos, every Friday night right after Johnny Carson, and some other shows that was airing in syndication. And
So
yes, he's
you remember
known for his
Train?
15-minute music videos.
Mm-hmm.
I got a chance to see Thriller for the first time, 15-minute music video, influenced by horror movies, with appearances by former Playboy playmate Ola Ray and narrated by the late Vincent Price. 15-minute music videos. He was influenced by the movies. And also, his other music video, Bad, directed by Martin Scorsese. He was in that black leather jacket and had appearance by an upcoming actor, Wesley Snipes, in the music video. They shot that music video in the Bed-Stuy section of Brooklyn, in the subway station, 15 minutes. Same thing with the other music video, Black and White. This was aired on Fox. 15 minutes. Appearances by the late George Wendt, Tess Harper, and Macaulay Culkin, and the group ABC, Another Bad Creation. It was in that music video, and I saw a glimpse of Tyra Banks in the video, and then by the time they got to that other scene, holding his crotch and everything, so even though they had to tone it down for MTV and BET to air, that was 15 minutes. Same thing with his other music video, Remember the Time, 15 minutes. That too aired on Fox, directed by the late John Singleton. Cameo appearances by Eddie Murphy, Iman, and Magic Johnson. Playing it in Egypt. You would see all the spins, the special effects, and all of that. So Michael Jackson had done it all. And he was influenced by James Brown, the same thing that Chris Brown, Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears and Justin Bieber, they were all influenced by Michael Jackson. And as I mentioned earlier, when I went to the Michael Jackson celebration, I've seen everyone be dressing up like Michael Jackson, whether it's the present Michael with the Jerry curls and the suits that he'd be wearing, and yes, the sparkle glove, the sparkle socks, the loafers, and the hat that he'd be wearing, all of that. I said to myself, oh, everybody be dressing up like Michael Jackson. And yes, some of the ladies have that hats too.
The
And I
fedora.
mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
and as I mentioned, the red jacket with all them zippers.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen it all. I say it's a shame that they didn't have the fro back then when we were doing that. I want you back then, da. And yes, Saturday morning cartoon show on ABC. They did the Alphabets commercial. I remember that back then. And he done it all. American Music Award, Grammy Award, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee twice with his brothers in 1997, and then on solo in 2001. So he kept performing until he passed away in 2009. His last concert movie was This Is It. everything. So rest in peace to the one and only, the king of pop, the late Michael Jackson.
Yes.
So let me put in some bonuses also while we're on there.
Mhm.
I mentioned J Lo, known
Mhm.
for her see-through green outfit dress, where she performed, or no, not performed, but she was doing an award for the Grammy Awards in 2000. And also I mentioned Patti LaBelle when I was watching Motown Returns to the Apollo on NBC back in May of 1985. When she
Mhm.
came on stage, I said to myself, "Is that a hat?" And then I looked closer, like, it's a real hair with the designs. At first I thought it was a hat, but it was a real hair. I was like,
Mhm.
outrageous. So I gotta put those two bonuses in there.
Yeah,
So
for
they're
sure.
known
J-Lo
for
with the
always.
Versace dress, right? The green Versace
Hmm.
dress. Mhm.
Yes. So I got to put those two in there. So there you have it. The Black Soul Music Experience Top 10 R&B Black Artists of All Time wearing in fashion. Well, Nina, thank you so much for being here on the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And not only that, it's been a pleasure that we got a chance to meet up from Alignable. As I mentioned, special thank you to Andy Bonkhauser from California. Hooked me up, connected with you. We met at the diner in the Boogie Down Bronx section. As I mentioned earlier, I'm no stranger to the Bronx. I've been moved around the Bronx lots of times, so I know all of the areas. We talked about what we can talk about in this episode of how does music play a part in the fashion and arts industry. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your success of 25 years in the fashion industry. And I wish you continued success on your endeavors of bringing something for the next generation, that they can be the next Versace or Calvin Klein or the next Fubu. Thank
Mhm.
you so much.
Yes, and I want to thank you as well, Samuel. I mean, it has been such an incredible experience to share my story on your podcast today. Special shout out to Andy, special plug to Alignable, and special shout out to all my family and friends who have supported me through this process, and the people who have helped me to build the person that I am becoming current day. And for those of you who didn't tune in earlier, you can find my company at www.meli-micah.com or on Instagram at meli underscore MICAH. That's at Millie underscore Michael. So it's been a great day today. I'm so thankful for the opportunity, Samuel, and many, many, many good things coming your way and my way.
Okay, well, thank you for the compliment, and you just saved me from going to the next question. Where can we follow you on social media? So you just saved my little breath.
Yeah.
Download all the artists that we have talked about on this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Visit iTunes.com, Spotify.com, or purchase a CD at Amazon.com. And make sure you follow Nina Echevarria. Go to her website. It's at www.Meli-Micah, that's MICAH.com. And also follow her on Instagram at Meli underscore Micah, MICAH. And make sure you check out all of the fashion that we just talked about. Go to YouTube and check out all of your favorite artists. What that they were wearing on all those music videos. You can check them out right now on YouTube. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out this episode, please subscribe by going to the link. The link is riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s. Don't forget to add the S at the end, dash studio. And yes, I will be posting this episode on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you have a hard time getting on to riverside.fm, then please become a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Log on to the Patreon homepage Make sure you put in your email and your password where you see all of the Patreon shows done by different creators. And make sure you go to the top and make sure you type in the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Check out all of my audio podcast episodes and the video podcast clips that you may have missed. And if you have a hard time getting on to Patreon, that I will be posting this episode on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. All you need to do is go to the YouTube homepage and type in the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. If you like this episode, if you love my podcast, please subscribe, please support, please give me a thumbs up, please leave a comment, and please pass it on. Thank you for joining me as I close out this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience. Well, that's about it for this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. I'm Sam Wilson Jr. Thank you for joining me, and please tune in next week for an all-new episode. The Black Soul Music Experience Podcast is sponsored by the support of listeners and viewers like you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Look for my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Pocket Cast. And don't forget the link. The link is riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s-studio. And don't forget to check out my audio and video podcast episodes by becoming a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. And please check out my video podcast episodes by subscribing to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. And please leave your comments, feedbacks, and replies by going to my Facebook homepage. Go to facebook.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. You can also tweet me on X, aka Twitter, at Sam Wilson Jr. 66. And follow me on Instagram at SAMM.Y2980. As always, partying, remember this. Reach for the top and your dreams will come true, and it can happen to you. From all of us, take care. God bless. Thanks for listening. Have a good week, and please be safe.